What's up, everybody? Tim here with the Geeked Up Gaming Review Group and the Dragon Scale Game Store located at 400 Tracy Road, New Whiteland, Indiana. Bringing you guys a video of a game that I have really been trying to push inside the store called Dragoborne Rise to Supremacy. So the basis of this game is that you are protecting forts and with creatures and spells and ambush cards, and you are to protect while protecting your forts, try and destroy your opponent's forts. So what I'm going to do is kind of just simulate a turn here on how the game is played, and I forgot to get my dice out, so that would probably help. So there is a dice mechanic in here, but don't let that deter you, because I was kind of like, oh, this is different. What do these dice do in this game? And we'll get to that here in a minute. So what you would do during one of your turns is first each player would draw 5 cards. So you go ahead and draw 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can do like partial moles, and you usually want to keep like low cost cards in your hand. So I'm going to drop a 6, 7, and a 5 drop. Get rid of those. What you'll do is shuffle those into your library or your deck. And then draw 3 more cards. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's shuffle this deck. And we're going to draw 3 new cards. And hopefully they are lower cost than the ones that we just put out. So go ahead and draw 1, 2, 3. Alright, so out of the 3 that we pitched, we got 1 low drop, but we still got the 6 and the 5 back. So that's what happens when you run 4 of a card. So during a turn, what you're going to do is you're going to start with your stand-up phase, which is if these are your resources down here. If these are in a tapped position or a resting state, you'll want to stand up and have them ready to go for your next turn at the beginning. You'll then roll your dice, which these are going to generate shields, also give creatures +1/+1. So no matter what the value is on these dice, it's always going to be a +1/+1 to your creatures. So what you want to do is when you roll these, you just want to keep those off to the side until you're ready to use them right before your combat phase, because once you place them, they're locked in that position. So we did our stand up, which is untapping, our dice step of doing that, and then you'll draw. Whether you go first or second, it does not matter. Now if you were the first player, you do not get a resource phase and you cannot attack. But let's just pretend that I went second. I would draw a card, and then my resource is going to come off the top of my deck and go right into my resource piles. So now I have 2 red, 1 green, and 1 blue. What I can do is I can rest one of these or tap it and play a goblin or anything like that. But before we do that, we have to go ahead and finish up the setup of the game and put our barriers down. Now your barriers are just going to come straight off the deck and form 3 piles of 2, which are going to be your forts. And this is a lot better to, actually that's supposed to go there, you're supposed to stay on the deck. So this would be your forts, and then your shield spots are right in front of that, and then your ambush cards go above that. It's a lot easier to show you when you have a full mat that actually has a location shown. Right now I'm just using a map from another game. But you would do this part, and I'm kind of backtracking here, but you would do that part as part of the setup of the game. And then we would do our draw on resources. So I'm sorry that I mixed up those two. We're just gonna keep rolling with it. So let's just showing you guys, we're not all perfect. Let's just keep going. All right, keep repeating myself. 2, 3, 4, 5, so I have 6 cards in hand. Max hand size is 7. So what we will do is I'm gonna rest 1 to play my goblin madcap. You don't necessarily have to play the red with the red, green with green, and blue with the blue, but your dice do have to line up when you place them as far as the shields go. So, yeah, buddy, we'll play it in just a minute, okay? Just let me finish this, okay? Alright, cool. So what we will do is put the madcap, say, here. And he has an auto effect, so when this creature dies, he may choose a shield and deal 3 damage to it. So if my opponent has a shield of a 1/2 or something like that, somebody comes to attack me and I block it, he dies, I can go boom and knock out one of their shields. So I still have 3 available.
2.
So what I'll do is I'll pay the 1, 2, and 3 to play Hidden Blade. So what you can do is you can pay anything into the amount needed to cast a card, as long as the required color has been met by at least one of your resources. So if I only had blues and greens available, I could not cast the Hidden Blade. So, are you waving high? Alright. So then we would pass turn, they would do their stand up, die step, and draw step. So you do have multiple combats, so I'm going to read off what the main phase is. So active player may perform the following actions any number of times in any order. You can summon a creature, cast a spell, use an act ability, so it'll say act on the card, ACT, move or switch creature location on forts, and then assign the dice. This action may only be performed once for each die. So right now my die are still floating and I'm able to do what I want with them. I can put them in their designated spaces and build shields, which is usually what you want to do in your first turn because your opponent's usually only going to cast one creature. I was able to cast 2 because I had 4. So that's why you want your low cost creatures so you can get more guys out faster. But if I was to assign them as shields, they would just go in front of their color identity of the banners. So I got the blue banner here, so it would align with the blue die, green with green, and red with red, so on and so forth. Even if you play any of the other colors, such as the black deck, you would have a black die or a purple die to represent that. So the other card that I don't have like in my hand that I can show you is an ambush card. So we'll just go ahead and simulate a couple more turns. These, even if they're knocked out, you're going to re-roll these every turn. So you're going to do your stand up, which is your untap, your dice step of rolling. These are some monster shields. And then I'll go to my draw step, draw, and then create a resource, which I wish I would have drawn that instead because it's a Pyroblast. Pyroblast, you can pay 2 of any color to put it as an ambush on any of your forts. And what it does, especially with this being a 6, it's auto, so when this fort is attacked, if this is an ambush, you may choose a fort and deal X damage to all creatures to that fort, where X is the value of one of your red dice. So you could be like, so say if this is sitting out here and somebody attacks this fort, it's going to trigger this guy, he's going to flip, he's going to recognize the 6 on the red die, it's then going to start to resolve, and then you choose what fort you're going to do a total of 6 damage to all creatures in. So say if somebody played this and they did it to this fort and I had both of these guys here, these guys are definitely going to die because they're just 1s. But even if I had this big Thornbark Walker there with a 4/4, he's going to die. I mean, there's not a lot that's going to survive 6 damage. Not even my 7-drop dragon. He is a 7-drop, 6/6, and he's pretty hefty, and he would still die from a Pyroblast of a red 6 die. So that's just kind of a mechanic there to show you. So maybe like on this turn, that's going to actually be my resource to come back. So that's my resource. So I could cast anything that's 3, 4, 5. So I could cast 5. So let's go ahead and tap 3. There's my 1 green needed to cast this creature. And this is my total of 5 resources and play the Thornbark Walker. So I can play him over here. And it really, with these big shields this early, say it's really a turn 3 game, these shields are monsters. If somebody comes in, let's say like this 2/3, and wants to hit this, it's only going to roll down to a 3 because it did 2 damage. So your card, you know, your attack and endurance, your 2 damage is going to smash that and knock that out. So, you know, if they get through this and then this Madcap goes off, I can still deal 3 damage to to one of theirs and knock it down by 3 points and make it a little easier for my guys to get through if Madcap dies. So that was a 6. So I've liquidated all of my resources to cast in 1 guy. So I would pass turn, they would pass it back to me, do the same thing until you've done your objective to where you've hit one of your opponent's things. So let's go to the next part where if someone destroys a barrier. So if an opponent hits me, they get through all my shields and they get to the barrier to hit it. You're going to flip the barrier over if it's and put it in your hand. You're not going to show it to your opponent, but you would put it in your hand. Some barriers, depending on what all is in your deck, some barriers will have, here's one. So these barriers will have that little burst symbol down in the bottom left hand corner where that little star burst is. It's going to trigger those when they flip over. It will say put this card into your resource zone. So this barrier is going to flip over, be destroyed, and become a green resource, and I've just gained a resource automatically from my barrier being destroyed. So usually when you're not necessarily going to lose just because your barriers are starting to be destroyed. It's kind of evened out to where when a barrier is destroyed, it puts a card in your hand, and you're getting some advantages. Now this is a completely modded deck. It's alpha dominance, and I've actually taken stuff from the demo decks that were provided and put them in here, like the Pyroblast. This is not a staple in this deck, but it is so good when you have a D6 red die. And I'll show you how this can kind of work together. So let's say this guy's in my hand. I play him for the 7 cost, so we'll just pretend I have 7. It says when this creature is summoned, choose one of your dice and change its value to 6. Then choose any number of opposing creatures and deal 6 damage divided as you choose among these creatures. This guy is straight beast. He's also the main dude in Alpha Dominance, and he's foiled out, and then there's a regular copy of him non-foil. So I could be like, all right, well, I'm gonna turn this up to a D6, and then we would just imagine if I had just enough resources to pay the other 2 and put a Pyroblast out here. It's like I'm doing 6 off him just landing. I'm changing a D6 to a 6 max for max shield. And I can put a Pyroblast out there, and if you try to trigger to try and fight that Pyroblast, you're gonna take 6 right to the face, like to one of your forts, and they're all gonna die. Because even this guy, he's a monster. He's just a big 6/6. He's still gonna die from a Pyroblast at max damage. So yeah. But anyways, that's the simulation of what turns are. Now, if someone attacks you, you have the option to choose if you want to block or let it through. Sometimes letting the little guy through and letting it block, or not blocking, is okay, but then blocking those big, huge guys and killing them off can be, a strategic point of what you want to do. So I've shown you guys like how the resources work. Kind of hard to show you how combat works without not really playing against someone. Hopefully I can today or tomorrow, sometime this week, hopefully, get somebody to play a full game with a modded deck, because we can play with demo decks and stuff like that, which we could probably do that, and that would show kind of what the game's all about when you're playing against someone. But yeah, I think I covered all the bases. So we went through the phases and stuff like that. So like your combat phase, active player may attack multiple times. So you don't really attack in parties, you attack one creature at a time, and then you can choose to defend or not. When you attack, you do have to tap your creature, and that creature cannot block the next turn. If you block with a creature, you'll also tap it, just to signify that it can't block a second time. So I'll just walk through the combat phase. Active player may attack multiple times, and attack consists of the following steps. Attack step. Tap a creature and choose an opposing fort. So you would tap it and then choose which fort you would want to do. Defense step. If there is a shield to that fort, it blocks the attack. If not, the defending player may choose a untapped creature at that fort to block and then tap it. The damage step is attacker and blocker deal damage simultaneously. If the attacker was not blocked, the fort takes a damage and a barrier is destroyed. And then at your end phase, a player that has no barriers left loses the game. Active player chooses and discards hand cards down to 7. All damage dealt to creatures are recovered. So basically what's going to happen is if I come in and I smash my opponent's last barrier, they don't lose until their end step. So at the end of their end step, that's when they lose. Because there are cards that I have personally in my deck that are going to let me regenerate shields. No, I don't have the regeneration shield guy yet, but I do have one that lets me move barriers. I am wanting to get the I don't remember the name of the deck. It's something Hunter. It's got a wolf on it. I mean, if you look them up through the website at dragonborne.com, you'll see the stuff there. So, all right. But yeah, that's the basis of the game. So I'm Tim with the Geeked Up Gamer Review Group and the Dragon Scale Game Store, and I will bring you guys videos of this game later in the future, and we'll see you next time. So have a good one.